So, we are certainly being surprised these days, huh? It's been less than 2 weeks since the shock announcement of a brand new Fire Emblem game, and we just received the reveal and release of a new Fire Emblem mobile title known as Fire Emblem Shadows. Which is a very confusing title, it feels wrong without the Of Valentia part attached. But no, this is a completely different kind of game that blends together the strategy, tactical gameplay Fire Emblem is known for with social deduction mechanics, as you may know from games like Among Us. It sounds absolutely wild and like a recipe for disaster, but is it? Well, I wouldn't go that far. What I actually found the weirdest part of the entire game is that it doesn't really feel like a Fire Emblem game whatsoever. But before I get to that, I feel like I need to introduce this game a bit more. The premise sounds very confusing after all. This game is most definitely not Heroes 2.0, if that's what you're thinking. It's a completely different thing, and unlike Heroes, does not even really try to adapt Fire Emblem's usual gameplay to a mobile format. I mean, just the list of developers shows you this isn't your typical Fire Emblem experience. While Intelligent Systems is still involved, that much is obvious from the art, the music and the inclusion of canon characters like Lyn and Dimitri, more on them later, it feels quite obvious that development partner Dana is more involved here than they are in Heroes. Dana is Nintendo's #1 mobile partner and also the company who set up the Nintendo account infrastructure. They already worked as support on Heroes and have most prominently been involved with Pokémon's mobile games recently, with Pokémon TCG Pocket being a huge recent success for them. Point being, whereas Heroes is partway considered an actual mainline game by IS, see its inclusion in Engage, albeit as DLC, Shadows has a distinctly different feel. There are clear signals that this is a Fire Emblem game, obviously, like the inclusion of a green and red cavalier for our main Lord Kurt, and the presence of moves like Elfire or typical Fire Emblem classes show, but when you actually start playing the game, the resemblance to the main series starts to fade. Allow me to briefly explain how this works, because I don't think it's very intuitive and the trailer doesn't really explain it too well either. The entirety of Fire Emblem Shadows is played online with 2 other people. Together you make up a party and begin with a battle against enemy units. 2 of your party are Team Light, i.e. the good guys, while 1, unbeknownst to the rest, is Team Shadow, i.e. the traitor. In battle, your character moves and even attacks automatically. You have zero control over what he or she does, immediately causing the tactical strategy essence of Fire Emblem to fade like snow on a summer day. What you can do though is unleash special abilities or moves like the aforementioned Elfire, which work on cooldown and so have to be used at the right moment. This still doesn't require a lot of strategy if we're being honest, but it's not automatic at least. Team Light's goal is not just to defeat the enemies though, it's also to unmask who the traitor is. The traitor has access to their normal moveset, but also 2 extra Shadow exclusive moves, which you can use to your advantage in order to hinder your teammates. The entire balance of the game is about how far you dare to go as the traitor in hindering your teammates without them catching on to you. This is however very difficult. Since the battles are so short and you're constantly on cooldowns, you only get a few moves max, which is not a problem if you're Team Light, but as a traitor it makes it very difficult to both sabotage the mission and participate as if you belong at the same time. I have been able to successfully dupe some folks by, for example, first healing both of my teammates and then nuking the hell out of them, but it's a difficult balance and you can tell that people online are struggling with it due to how the game is designed. But fortunately for them, the first round honestly doesn't matter that much. If you correctly pick who the traitor is, you earn more lives for the final battle, which is when Team Light and Team Shadow go head to head, with the traitor now having transformed into a monstrous, animalistic form. More on that later as well. This is the battle that really matters. The first is more of a setup, this decides who wins. And this is in my opinion the part that really doesn't work. The gameplay of finding the traitor or sabotaging your team is decent enough, it's cute and it's enjoyable in short bursts. But the final battle, the one that actually matters, is very flawed. If Team Light caught the traitor, they have basically already won. It's very difficult as a traitor to beat out your former teammates since you're essentially outnumbered, your ally computer units are next to worthless and your HP is not bulky enough to withstand the attacks of 2 opponents at once. As such, if they also have extra lives, there's just no way you're gonna win in my experience. If the trainer managed to fool them though, and trick them into picking the wrong person, they now have a chance, I would say, but the odds certainly aren't in their favor as it is the other way around. And since most of the battle's actions happen automatically, you also feel like you have zero control and can basically do nothing to affect your chances. I have played quite some games, enough to see the entire story available so far, and only very sparingly did the traitor win. That could be because of the current meta and not everyone understanding how the game works exactly, of course, but I can't help but feel like the traitor has a huge disadvantage here. Now, social deduction games more often suffer from that, from my limited experience with the genre at least, but I think a core problem due to Shadow's design is that it's not like you can get satisfaction as a traitor out of lying and deceit, as is usually the draw. There is such a small window where you can enjoy deceiving your teammates, and since you can't talk or communicate in any way, it doesn't feel very satisfying to play as a traitor, which is usually its draw. So in short, I think the gameplay is novel and unique. I've never seen anything like it, and I can certainly see the charm to it. It's definitely better than I expected when I saw the trailer. But it's also severely flawed, and I'm seriously wondering how many people will stick with this game. It doesn't feel like there's enough depth to keep this interesting for longer than, say, a week. And that is where the rest of the content comes in, the elements that at least make this feel remotely like a Fire Emblem game. Because honestly, the gameplay doesn't at all. Just like Heroes, this game also has a story, divided in 2 books focusing on Team Light and on Team Shadow. You progress through the game by earning rapport, which is done by playing online battles in a certain role. As such, the battles you play do not tie into the story whatsoever, and that makes it all feel quite disjointed. The story itself, though, it's not bad. The main lord of the game is Kurt, the crown prince of a nation under attack known as Ast. His father has recently passed, another sign this is a Fire Emblem game. And as his only male heir, Kurt is now on the run with his entourage, looking to meet up with his fiancée, Princess Rose. I don't want to spoil too much of what happens, in case you want to experience it yourselves, but there is one element about him I have to discuss, the secret he carries with him. So this is your chance to skip forward to the 8-minute mark to avoid spoilers. 1, 2, 3... Okay, so Kurt has a secret, and that secret is that he isn't a prince at all. He's a princess, he's Lucinaing. Kurt is a she, pretending to be a man to remain the throne's heir. And what that means is that Kurt is Fire Emblem's first ever main character to be in a canonical same-sex relationship, as her fiancée, Princess Rose, knows Kurt is a woman and loves her all the same for it. I have to say, very admirable move on IS's part. Even if it is only a spin-off, it at the very least makes Kurt stand out as a Fire Emblem protagonist. But keep it quiet for those who don't want to be spoiled, okay? Okay. Welcome back. We're gonna talk about the shadow side of the game, the evil characters, the ones that have made a pact with Veneris, this game's evil goddess. Anyone who makes such a pact now has the ability to change into a shadow beast, which is what the traitors are in gameplay and the form they take on in the final battle. And as you probably already noticed, yeah, this is a big anthropomorphic animal. Even though Fire Emblem has had things like this before, like the Lagoose, and Heroes also had things like this definitely feels like it takes that idea into a different direction. In their human form, Lagoose or Heroes characters like Ash have animalistic traits, but they're very much humans. This is mirrored in Shadows with the characters their human appearance. They may have animalistic ears or wings or horns, but they're still human. And when the Lagoose transform, they straight up become an animal. They lose most of what makes them human in appearance. Here though, that isn't the case. These animals still wear armor and clothes, and they retain their body type, including being bipedal, having muscular arms and legs for men, and curves for women. Look, I don't really care what people are into as long as it doesn't hurt anyone, but is it cool to say I don't like animals having breasts? That turns me away from a game, because that's definitely happening here. It makes me a little uncomfortable. It's a bit of a shame too, because I actually really like the general art style of the game. The human designs are really good. I vastly prefer them over plenty of the Heroes OCs of the last few years. It's just the Shadow Beast designs that I really don't vibe with, partly because I think they're weirdly sexualized, and partly because I personally don't feel this art style suits animals as well as it does humans, but that's subjective of course. If this is your thing though, you may be happy to know that we're also getting canon, well-known Fire Emblem characters being changed into animals for this game. Dimitri and Lyn are already in, with Dimitri turning into a lion, fittingly, while Lyn becomes a centaur. I mean, it's completely bizarre, and this one I kinda like for how ridiculous it is, that it also really makes me wonder how many people are interested in this. It all feels incredibly niche, even more so than regular Fire Emblem games. And that kinda brings me to the thought that stayed with me most after I had done most of what there is to do right now. If you just look at how the game's designed, I can't help but feel that even the developers know this is not another Heroes. The game has many design decisions that feel very weird for a mobile game aiming to be successful. For example, there's no gacha here. Very player friendly that, but the game is free, so where is the money coming from? Well, the answer is the Season Pass, which is not cheap and gives you very little in return. Only the typical extra drops, and Lyn, she's Season Pass only for a limited time before then becoming available normally. And that means, I don't know, there will always be someone of course, but I just cannot see for the life of me that people subscribe to the Season Pass in the long term. The return is so low, the price is not, and the gameplay attached to it is decent, but it's not even remotely as addictive or interesting as say Heroes was. Combine that with how the gameplay feels and even how the character designs, while good, are also quite a bit removed from what we know from Fire Emblem, and it all starts to feel less like a Fire Emblem mobile game and more like a mobile game with Fire Emblem elements. As if this had been its own game had Dragalia Lost not completely flopped and had Fire Emblem Heroes not been Nintendo's biggest mobile success. It feels like it has the Fire Emblem name attached because, believe it or not, in the mobile space that has proven to be a recipe for success, rather than this actually being a Fire Emblem game from the early stages to the end. I can't prove that, mind you, it's just my suspicion based on what I've played, and that's not to say the tone of Fire Emblem isn't here. It's clear that whoever wrote the story and designed the characters knows very well how Fire Emblem works. That isn't the problem. But I cannot say that in any way, shape or form does this scratch a Fire Emblem itch. And ironically enough, the game feels at its least Fire Emblem-y when you're actually playing it. And as such, I can't help but feel this game will not have even close to the legs that Heroes has proven to have. I saw someone say this could have been a mode in Heroes, and I honestly agree. There's not enough substance here to sustain a player long term, and when that's the case, I think the game will really struggle to find an audience. But I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo's hopes for this aren't too high themselves. The way the Season Pass immediately starts aggressively out of the gate, yet is not necessary whatsoever, makes it all feel like they're trying to squeeze money out of it quickly before interest drops and support stops. But who knows, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Fire Emblem fans with an interest in anthropomorphic animals is a niche large enough to sustain itself. Who knows? I doubt the gameplay is enough to do it, and if you're coming into it as a fan of the core Fire Emblem games, Heroes is the far better option to pick up, so I doubt that will convert many people, but at the very least, Shadows does its own unique thing, and maybe enough folks will flock to that. And all you people who want Dietrich to become a vampire may actually get your wish fulfilled when he's added to this game as promotion material and transforms into a bat. But that's just how I feel. What are your thoughts on Fire Emblem Shadows? Have you given it a shot? Share it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all my future Fire Emblem content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.